So in the video where I'm talking about RFK Jr. and all of his, not all of, a very small portion of his really reprehensible positions, his eugenicist takes on a number of issues, including autism, I made the comment that RFK Jr. thinks that autistic people can't hold down a job or pay taxes, because he said that in a direct quote when he was talking about the tragedy of autistic people. He absolutely framed it as a useless eaters scenario where he thinks that it's such a tragedy that autistic people can't pay taxes. He said they wouldn't be able to get married, have relationships, go to school, get a job, and pay taxes, something to that effect. So when I referenced that in my video, I got this comment, and I just want to clarify here. So you said, okay, actually, hang on a second, because it's too long to fit here. Let me cut and paste the whole thing in here. Okay, so I know what you're getting at, and I agree. He said autistic people can't hold down a job. There are absolutely many in my community that can and do, but there are also those that cannot for X reason, or sometimes, yes, it's linked to their autism and or other disability, and that's okay. Totally agree. You likely didn't mean it in a tying our worth to our ability to work. Unfortunately, that is how it is coming across a bit, but also they don't need much of an excuse. No, I'm so sorry. I did not mean for that to be confusing. I am in no way tying an autistic person's worth to their ability to hold down a job, to earn income and pay taxes. My whole point in framing it that way was that RFK Jr. has that position, not me. He is the one spouting Third Reich-esque useless eater propaganda. He is the one tying autistic people and other disabled folks' worth to whether or not they can pay taxes, that then our federal government will use to fund private for-profit corporations committing an ethnic cleansing, that our government will use to pad the pockets of billionaires, to grift this country into an outright hellhole. I don't think that anybody's worth is tied to whether or not they can produce a paycheck or be a productive member of society. I hate that term. I hate the phrase earn a living. I hate the phrase productive member of society. You are worthy and should be cared for and are a valued member of society because you're a human being. It has nothing to do with how productive you are, how much you can contribute to the capitalist machine. Your worth is never tied to your productivity, and it's definitely also not tied to whether or not you earn a paycheck. As somebody who's been a homeschool parent and a homemaker predominantly, I've always worked on the side somewhat for income, but the majority of my work has been unpaid, not in any way connected to a paycheck, and therefore completely devalued and made invisible by our capitalist society. I am somebody who will get on my soapbox every day of the week to refute the very common belief in this society that wage earners are somehow better and superior and more productive. And this really false idea that your labor only matters if it's tied to a paycheck. The invisible labor of women, homemaking labor, child rearing labor, caregiving for disabled relatives and elderly family members labor, volunteer labor, all of that keeps society going, supporting wage earners labor. But all of that is completely invisible, devalued, diminished significantly in a capitalist system. And likewise, any perpetuation of this idea that you are only a worthwhile member of society, you should only be cared for and valued as a full human being if you can earn a paycheck, if you can be a cog in the machine, if you can pay taxes. That's what the fascists believe. And we've got to push back against that at every opportunity. Of course, fascists are eugenicists. Of course, they're ableist. Of course, they don't view disabled people as fully human, especially if those disabled folks do not earn a paycheck, are not useful for the corporate bosses, and don't pay taxes. There's a reason that fascist regimes who pick up this kind of useless eater rhetoric, who want to engage in eugenics, straight out of the gate, they go for children, they go for disabled folks, they go for the elderly. Like clockwork, they go for all three of those groups. Then, of course, they usually pick a minority group to scapegoat, or multiple ones. But yeah, thank you for giving me the chance to clarify this. I was trying to point out how reprehensible RFK Jr.'s position is. That's part of the reason I think he is one of the most dangerous people in this regime, because he's like an out eugenicist. He's coated it in this veneer of wellness and health. And so many people, especially, white, crunchy mom types, have really been hoodwinked by this and have gone down a eugenicist pipeline. I've lost a lot of friends to it, and it's deeply, deeply dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous to disabled people, to children, to anybody with chronic illnesses, to all of us, because RFK Jr. is cutting funding to all kinds of important medical research. He's cutting off access to medical care. He's firing credible physicians. He's making it much harder for us, our children, kids in the future, to get access to immunizations, preventive care. He's making all of us actively less safe, less healthy, less well. Nothing about what Donald Trump is doing is making America great again. Nothing about what RFK Jr. is doing is making Americans healthier. This is a regressive movement. This is a eugenicist movement. They are taking us backward in time. They're making us actively sicker. And I want to talk a little bit more about that later today after I calm down for a little bit, because when I talk about RFK Jr., I get really, really mad. As the spouse and the parent of autistic people, what RFK Jr. is trying to do to autistic Americans is absolutely reprehensible. It's unacceptable. We should not be quiet about it at all. One of the most crucial elements of resistance against fascism is that you continually, vocally, vigorously advocate for and do everything that you can possibly do to protect those that are targeted by the regime. So look at who RFK Jr. is going for, and then we've got to step out and protect those folks.